Hello, this is Harry Paden. I am the host of Paden's Pulpit. This is season 2, episode 17. The subject, James Nathaniel Brown, aka Jim Brown. Season 2, Paden's Pulpit. This is episode 17. Today's subject, Mr. Jim Brown. Legend, icon, civil rights leader. A man who was my mentor, though I never met him. The way he carried himself was something that I admired. Men like Jim Brown, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, they were all those men that stood up in the face of racial inequality back when you could have severe consequences for doing so. I'll get into some of that. But again, the subject today is someone that I revere. Revere simply means I love him. Love him, respect him. Tears, real tears on his death, though he lived to be 87 glorious years old. His name, James Nathaniel Brown. He was born February 17th, 1936. He died a couple of days ago, May 18th. And he was surrounded by family and friends. Jim Brown, as we all know him, was an American football player, civil rights activist, and actor, just to name a few. In addition to his football accomplishments, this is when he was in school, high school, college. Jim Brown excelled in basketball, track, and especially lacrosse. You don't see a lot of black men that play lacrosse. But he was an excellent lacrosse player. As a sophomore, he was the second leading scorer for his basketball team, 15 points per game. And he earned a letter on the track team. Now again, Mr. Brown goes back. In 1955, he finished 5th place in the National Championship Decathlon. A decathlon is where it's a multiple, I think it's 10 events. And the sum total of what you do in each event will determine the winner. He came in 6th. His junior year, he averaged 11.3 points in basketball and was named a second-team All-American in lacrosse. His senior year, he was named first-team All-American in lacrosse. He had 43 goals in 10 games to rank second in scoring nationally. Say it again. He had 43 goals in 10 games to rank second in scoring nationally. Listen to this. Bet none of you knew this. Mr. Brown was so dominant in the game of lacrosse that lacrosse rules were changed, requiring a lacrosse player to keep their stick in constant motion while carrying the ball instead of holding it close to his body. There is currently no such rule that requires a player to keep his stick in motion. In other words, they made that rule because the man was so bad. Mr. Brown. Jim Brown, again, I bet you didn't know this. He is in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. The JMA Wireless Dome has an 800 square foot tapestry depicting Mr. Brown in football and lacrosse uniforms with the words, greatest player ever. Mr. Brown was more than just a one-of-a-kind running back. He caught passes, he returned kickoffs, and he even threw 3 touchdown passes. His 12,312 rushing yards and 15,459 combined net yards put him in, at the time, a class by himself. Mr. Brown, I'm going to call him Jim. I can't call him Jim. Mr. Brown was a unanimous first-team All-NFL pick 8 times through 1957 through 1961, 1963 through 1965. He played in 9 Pro Bowls in 9 years. He was an All-NFL pick 8 times. The only year he wasn't was in 1962, and he played in 9 Pro Bowls. Every year he played in a Pro Bowl. And he was the game's outstanding back in the Pro Bowl. This was back when they really played 3 times. He closed out his career with a 3-touchdown outburst in the 1966 Pro Bowl. Mr. Brown was one of the few athletes, very few, to speak out on racial issues in the 1950s as the civil rights movement was growing. He was one of the most prominent African American athletes to engage in civil rights activism, and he called on other African American athletes to become involved in similar initiatives off the field. Mr. Brown, along with Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Carl Stokes, were all members of the Cleveland Summit, a meeting with Muhammad Ali held with the intention of convincing the Four to rally behind and recruit others to help Muhammad Ali because of his civil rights when he was stripped of his belt. But they didn't hide in the shadow like that Jordan guy. Okay, I won't get into that. But he was an activist. He didn't just make money, sell sneakers, and call himself the GOAT. Jim Brown was a true GOAT. He took on issues. He talked about opposition to the Vietnam War, and he stood behind my greatest hero, Muhammad Ali, when Muhammad Ali refused to enter the draft and his boxing license was revoked. Brown, Mr. Brown, and other participants, they stood and supported him at the risk of their careers. Because, don't do that. Don't do that, just like now with Colin Kaepernick. His efforts was one of the predecessors of what has taken place with Colin Kaepernick. He stood out like my hero of today, LeBron James, and stood up and said something, even if it meant damaging his career. That's my kind of man. In 1966, Mr. Brown founded the Negro Industrial Economic Union, later known as the Black Economic Union, BEU, to help promote economic opportunities for of-color-owned business. Mr. Brown later stated in a 1968 Ebony magazine interview, listen to this, quote from Mr. Brown, "We've got to stop wasting all our energy and money marching and picketing and going and doing things like camping down in Washington on a poor people's campaign. We got to get off that emotional stuff and do something that will bring about real change. We got to have industries and commercial enterprises and build our own sustaining economic base. Then we can face white folks, man to man, and we can deal. Say it again. I'm going to read that quote again. This is a quote from Mr. Jim Brown. We've got to stop wasting all our energy and money marching and picketing and going or doing things like camping down in Washington on the Poor People's Campaign. We got to get off that emotional stuff and do something that will bring about real change. We got to have industries and commercial enterprises and build our own sustaining economic base. Then we can face white folks man to man and we can deal, end quote. What he's saying is we want to have people feel for us. Oh, look what they're doing. He said, forget that. That's that emotional stuff. Money makes people move, make people leave people alone. Money. But again, that's why I admire him so much. In 2002, the Sporting News selected him as the greatest football player of all time, or as my great Muhammad Ali says, of all times. And also the New Jersey Daily News also selected him as the greatest football player of all time, but that was in 2014. On November the 4th, 2010, Mr. Brown was chosen by NFL's network's NFL Films production, the top 100 NFL greatest players. He was chosen as the second greatest player in NFL history, only behind Jerry Rice. In November 2019, he was selected as one of the 12 running backs on the NFL's 100th anniversary all-time team. And I saw him. He still looked, tough and rough. I saw that event. On January 13, 2020, Mr. Brown was named the greatest college football player of all time by ESPN during a ceremony at the College Football Playoff National Championship game celebrating the 150th anniversary of college football. I also saw that. I am so glad they honored this man. He is deserving. People like him sometimes become a pariah. Pariah is someone that, it's like Colin Kaepernick. Nobody will spend money on him. They'll try to embarrass him and, humiliate him because he stood up. He was a strong black man. Not like some of these mealy mouths we have now. I have little or no respect for them. And that's just not just athletes, politicians. They sell themselves for a bowl of soup. That's in the Bible. But again, Muhammad Ali was my greatest influence, followed closely by Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Malcolm X. Those were men. Those were brothers. They didn't cower. They didn't get sold out. Mr. James Nathaniel Brown, who we affectionately call Jim Brown. Greatest football player ever. Greatest lacrosse player ever. Probably wasn't the greatest basketball player ever, but he was a great basketball player. And one of the greatest civil rights movement leaders way back in the 1950s, way before it was popular to be so. Rest in peace, sir. Rest in peace. You will always be a part of my fiber because I stand up to injustice at the risk of losing it all, because you have much more to lose than I ever will. Jim Brown, icon, sports, civil rights, a man's man. To God be the glory, sir. To God be the glory, Mr. Jim Brown. They don't make men like that anymore. To God be